Hello, future biologists. Welcome to an exciting journey into the world of biological classification. Today, we are diving into the Five Kingdom Classification chapter, specifically focusing on its historical roots with the Two Kingdom Classification. We'll explore this topic across four levels: easy, medium, hard, and hardest, building your understanding step by step. Get ready to uncover how scientists first tried to make sense of life's incredible diversity. Let's start with the basics. Ever wondered how we first tried to organize all the living things around us? It began with a very simple idea. The two-kingdom classification system is one of the oldest methods for grouping organisms. It was first proposed by a brilliant scientist named Carolus Linnaeus way back in the 18th century. Imagine trying to sort every single living thing into just two big groups. This system divided all life into two major kingdoms: Plantae, for all plants, and Animalia, for all animals. It was a revolutionary idea for its time, providing a much-needed structure to the natural world. So, what made an organism a plant or an animal in this system? Plants, or kingdom Plantae, included everything from tiny algae to giant trees. They were generally non-moving, had rigid cell walls, and could make their own food through photosynthesis. Think of a mango tree or a rose. On the other hand, kingdom Animalia included all animals. These organisms could move around, lacked cell walls, and obtained food by eating other living things. Your pet dog or a fish are perfect examples. The main criteria was simply whether an organism had a cell wall and if it could move on its own. Now, let's test your understanding of the basics. Here are three quick questions for you. First, can you recall who proposed this two-kingdom classification system? Second, what are two key features that define organisms in kingdom Plantae? And third, can you give an example of an organism that belongs to kingdom Animalia, according to this system? Take a moment to think about your answers. Alright, moving on to the medium level. Let's dig a little deeper into the genius of Linnaeus and the specific criteria he used. Carolus Linnaeus, a renowned Swedish botanist, zoologist, and physician, published his groundbreaking work, Systema Naturae, in 1735. His primary aim was to create a straightforward, practical method for identifying and naming every known organism. This wasn't just about sorting, it was about bringing order to what seemed like endless biological chaos. His system was simple, yet profoundly impactful, setting the stage for all future classification efforts. Linnaeus's classification relied on several key criteria. Organisms with a rigid cell wall were placed in Plantae, while those without went into Animalia. He also considered their mode of nutrition. Plants were autotrophic, meaning they made their own food, while animals were heterotrophic, consuming others. Locomotion was another factor. Plants were typically fixed, whereas animals could move freely. Lastly, he observed their response to stimuli. Animals showed rapid responses, plants much slower ones. These simple yet effective distinctions defined his two kingdoms. So, kingdom Plantae, in Linnaeus's view, encompassed green plants, mosses, ferns, and even initially included fungi and bacteria. These organisms possessed cellulose cell walls, performed photosynthesis, and typically grew indefinitely from their tips, remaining fixed to one spot. Kingdom Animalia, however, included everything from tiny protozoa to complex mammals. These organisms lacked cell walls, ingested their food, had limited growth, were capable of voluntary movement, and possessed a nervous system for coordination. While brilliant for its time, this system, as we'll see, had its limitations as more diverse life forms were discovered. Time for some medium-level questions. First, who proposed the two-kingdom classification and in which significant publication? Second, name the two primary criteria Linnaeus used to classify organisms. Third, list two distinct characteristics that separated kingdom Plantae from kingdom Animalia in this system. Fourth, why was this system considered foundational despite its simplicity? And finally, can you name one group of organisms that later presented a challenge to this classification? Pause and consider your answers carefully. Now, let's step up to the hard level. Here, we'll critically analyze the system's flaws and understand why it needed to evolve. While Linnaeus' system was a monumental achievement, scientific progress soon revealed its significant shortcomings. A major problem arose with fungi. They possess cell walls, which would place them with plants, but they are heterotrophic, absorbing nutrients rather than photosynthesizing. This unique combination didn't fit. Then there were bacteria. These prokaryotes lacked a true nucleus and organelles, differing vastly from both plants and animals at a cellular level. Their diverse nutritional modes also defeat easy categorization. And what about Euglena? This single-celled organism could photosynthesize like a plant but also moved with a flagellum and lacked a cell wall, like an animal. These exceptions highlighted the system's limitations. The two-kingdom system also failed to distinguish between unicellular and multicellular organisms, and, crucially, between prokaryotic and eukaryotic organisms. This made classifying simple life forms like algae and protozoa problematic. The realization of these inadequacies eventually led to the development of more sophisticated systems. Ernst Haeckel proposed a three-kingdom classification, adding Protista for unicellular organisms. This evolution continued, culminating in R. H. Whitaker's widely accepted five-kingdom classification, which brought in Monera, Protista, and fungi as separate kingdoms, providing a more accurate representation of life's vast diversity based on cellular structure, nutrition, and body organization. Despite its flaws, the two-kingdom classification played a foundational role in biology. It was the first systematic framework that brought order to the natural world, making it much easier for scientists to study and communicate about different organisms. It established the very concept of hierarchical classification, which remains fundamental to modern biology. Furthermore, Linnaeus introduced binomial nomenclature, the two-part naming system still universally used today for scientific names. This system, though eventually superseded, stimulated immense research into organism characteristics, leading to discoveries that ultimately necessitated its refinement and the development of more comprehensive classification methods. Let's tackle some challenging questions now. First, explain why fungi didn't fit well into the two-kingdom system. Second, describe the dual characteristics of Euglena that made its classification problematic. Third, how did the discovery of bacteria challenge Linnaeus' system? Fourth, what fundamental cellular distinction did this system overlook? Fifth, name one later classification system that addressed these limitations. Sixth, what significant contribution did Linnaeus' system make despite its flaws? And finally, what is binomial nomenclature and its relation to Linnaeus? Think critically about these. Welcome to the hardest level. Here, we'll dive deep into the historical, scientific, and even philosophical context that shaped and ultimately surpassed the two-kingdom classification. In Linnaeus' 18th century world, scientific tools were rudimentary. Microscopy was in its infancy, and the very concept of a cell as the basic unit of life was still developing. DNA, genetics, and molecular biology were far-off dreams. Classification relied almost entirely on macroscopic, observable traits like outward appearance, movement, and obvious feeding habits. Linnaeus' system was a pragmatic solution, designed for practical identification in the field, assuming a clear, observable dichotomy in nature that aligned with human perception of plants and animals. The philosophical basis of early classification mirrored common sense: green, stationary things were plants, moving, eating things were animals. But this simplicity cracked under the weight of new discoveries. Fungi, for instance, were initially plant-like due to cell walls, but later microscopic and biochemical analysis revealed their cell walls were chitin, not cellulose, and their absorptive heterotrophy was distinct from both plants and animals. Bacteria, as prokaryotes, presented an even greater challenge, lacking a nucleus and organelles. Their simple structure and incredibly diverse metabolisms, from photosynthesis to chemosynthesis, couldn't be shoehorned into either kingdom. Organisms like Euglena truly highlighted the system's limitations. Euglena possesses chloroplasts for photosynthesis, a plant-like trait, yet also exhibits active locomotion using a flagellum and lacks a rigid cell wall, animal-like characteristics. This ambiguous nature became the poster child for the vast group of unicellular eukaryotes, the protists, which defeats simple categorization. The ongoing refinement of microscopy allowed scientists to peer into the cellular world, revealing fundamental differences between prokaryotes and eukaryotes, and the intricate structures of organelles. Biochemical analysis further distinguished life forms based on cell wall composition, photosynthetic pigments, and metabolic pathways, providing far more precise criteria for classification than mere visible traits. These technological and conceptual advancements led to a paradigm shift. The two-kingdom system, while foundational, was eventually superseded by more nuanced models like Haeckel's three kingdoms, Copeland's four kingdoms, and ultimately Whittaker's five-kingdom classification, each incorporating new scientific insights. Despite its scientific inaccuracies by modern standards, Linnaeus's system remains an undeniable historical milestone. It established the very principles of systematic biology, including the hierarchical structure of classification and the universally adopted binomial nomenclature. It taught scientists the critical importance of rigorous observation and, crucially, the necessity of continuously refining our understanding and classification systems as knowledge expands. It laid the groundwork for all future biological organization. All right, for the ultimate challenge, here are the first 5 hardest questions. 1. Discuss the primary limitations of scientific tools and understanding during Linnaeus's time that influenced the development of the two-kingdom classification. 2. Explain how the distinct cell wall composition of fungi fundamentally challenged their placement within kingdom Plantae. 3. Describe the unique combination of autotrophic and heterotrophic characteristics in Euglena, and elaborate on why this made it a problematic organism for the two-kingdom classification. 4. Beyond the presence or absence of a cell wall, what other fundamental cellular characteristic distinguishes bacteria from organisms in Plantae and Animalia, and why was this overlooked by Linnaeus? And 5. How did the development of advanced microscopy contribute to the eventual rejection of the two-kingdom classification system? Here are the remaining 5 toughest questions to solidify your understanding. 6. Compare and contrast the basic philosophical approach to classifying organisms in Linnaeus's time versus the approach taken by scientists developing the five-kingdom classification. 7. Trace the historical progression of classification systems from the two-kingdom to the five-kingdom model, highlighting the key additions and the scientific rationale behind each expansion. 8. If a newly discovered unicellular organism possesses chloroplasts but also exhibits amoeboid movement and lacks a cell wall, how would Linnaeus classify it, and what kingdom would it likely belong to in the five-kingdom system? 9. Discuss the significance of mode of nutrition as a classification criterion, explaining how it became increasingly refined from the two-kingdom to later, more comprehensive systems. And finally, question 10. Despite its scientific inaccuracies by modern standards, what two enduring contributions of Linnaeus's work continue to be fundamental to biological classification today? And that wraps up a deep dive into the two-kingdom classification. We've journeyed from its simple beginnings to its complex challenges, understanding how it laid the groundwork for modern biology. Remember, learning is a continuous process, and every concept builds upon another. For more engaging and in-depth educational content, make sure to visit synapse.omaps.in. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for regular updates and to continue exploring the fascinating world of science with us. Keep questioning, keep learning, and keep growing. See you in the next lesson.